Welcome, everyone, to People on Dating. I'm your host, Will Morales. And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this is a topic based conversation about the ups and downs of dating. Whether you're 18 or 80, you have a story to tell. But the gist of the podcast is just a conversation, no judgment. Today's guest is Catherine Berra. She's an author, equestrian, mother, world traveler, and optimist. Catherine spent over 20 years in Washington, D.C., working as a writer and consultant. After raising her son as a single mother, she ventured out into the world of online dating. Ugh, at 48. Spent 10 years trying to figure it all out, and while still single, remains an optimist. During COVID shutdown, she decided to put together a collection of hilarious dating stories and enjoy sharing these anecdotes and hearing the endless funny dating stories of other older men and women. Catherine, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. How are you?
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here and sharing in what we can all relate to, right?
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I hate to say that I'm against online dating because of catfishing and all that, especially
Right.
on Instagram and Twitter. But I still answer. I do it for fun now. Like when a woman reaches out to me, I'll um, I'll reach out back, and then they ask me my age, and because I know it's catfish. I really believe it, especially they're somewhere else around the world. So
Right.
today I got one that this woman is from Syria.
Oh my
She's
gosh.
fighting. She's fighting in a war. She's from the U.S. She's showing me pictures, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And then she
Mhm.
sent me today, Catherine, an "I love you" sticker. So I said, wow, you're in love with me already?
Mhm.
So
And we could pivot to that part of the conversation because my book has brought out a lot of interesting stories about that sort of situation as well. So yeah, I'd like to talk about that as well. The
yeah, no,
whole
no,
scammer thing.
definitely. No, I listen. That's what I'm saying. I'm happy to have you on. So, Kathy, tell me about your journey. Your author, equestrian, mother, world traveler. What was your journey like from a young woman to now? Uh, so, what was Catherine's journey?
Well, it's funny because I have been a writer since I was a young girl. I started writing poetry. Literally, I read a Emily Dickinson, book, with all her poetry in it, and I just thought, oh, it's lyrical poetry. I could do that. So literally, since I was in about sixth grade, and I'm
Uh,
59 now, so
yeah,
I've been doing that, and I wake up in the middle of the night and I'll write a poem, and I write poems for my friends for gifts, and that was my initial love of writing, just words, just
yeah,
writing words that mean something to people. And, I just eventually traversed into lots of different positions and jobs. And then I moved back to Colorado. So yes, I was in television. I worked for a philanthropist in Washington, D.C. I met three
mhm.
presidents, I mean,
Oh,
it's just, I used to
cool.
wear ball gowns. Then I moved back to Colorado and, people don't believe me. Like I met this horse through a graduate program I was taking in animals and human health, and I was thinking I would do animal assisted therapy with my dog, and then my
Yeah,
dog died. But I did research at an equine barn because I had to do research for the grad program that I took when I moved back here.
yeah.
And this horse wouldn't leave me alone, so I ended up adopting a horse. Now I have a horse anyway. But as older people too, I think you just have to appreciate life because you're never going to do what you started out doing in the same way.
Yeah.
So, and then I moved back here to help my parents. Basically, I was gone for about 20 years. I have three siblings who are all in Colorado. My son lives in New York City. He stayed back east, but
Mhm.
I moved back here to help my aging parents, and now they're both passed. But I'm glad I came back and I was here because I was gone for a long time. And then, during this whole time, I was a single mom for a long time. And that's
Yeah.
what this book kind of pivoting to that conversation. I started after my son went to college. I thought, okay, now I have time. I'm going to try this because a lot of friends did it. And I'm telling you, I have had the most, I mean, and, I've had the most crazy stories. And so a friend of mine I worked with, she was in the office next to me and she would say, Kathy, you have got to write a book. No one's going to believe this. Because I would come in from a date, the night before and I'd tell her the story and she's like, oh my God. And then she eventually, would just say, Kathy, you have to write a book. Well, it wasn't until COVID lockdowns. And
Yeah.
she's like, this is a perfect time for you to do this because you have time. I'll remind you because I blocked a lot of the dates. I was like, I don't want to remember this stuff. But as a writer, I thought, everyone needs a good giggle, and it is kind of it's mortifying yet hilarious, that's what
Mhm.
I tell people. But, I started putting the stories together, and I just finished it and, put it out this February, this past February,
Okay.
and it's just been an amazing way to meet people, connect with people who I mean, I thought my stories were bad, and then you talk to other people and you're like, "Oh my god." So I don't it's also a really interesting study in the human condition. Like, what are we doing? What
Mhm.
in the heck are we doing? So, and I also said, "Hey, I thought, okay, have a laugh at my expense because I've been through this here's what I've been through. And some of the stories in my book are also from the men I dated. They told me
Mhm.
goofy stories about situations they'd been in. So it's not just women. And yeah, so that's where I'm at now. And I am just having a real fun time promoting the book, meeting other people, and doing podcasts and live events. And it's just been a real fun adventure. So,
No, I listen, first of all, I definitely want to hear a little bit more about the story. And I just got to say, for 59, you look amazing.
oh, thanks.
I wouldn't have guessed that. Even though in your bio you said you started online dating at 48 and then spent 10 years, and I didn't even figure out the math. And then when you told me, I'm like, oh wow, no, you look amazing. So
Oh, thanks. Thanks. It's
um
because probably because 'cause I'm not married. Just kidding.
That's
I'm
what's
kidding. I'm so
you know,
kidding. I'm kidding.
somebody had told me that one time because I'm 60 and I haven't shaved today, but
You
when I
look great too. I mean,
thank you.
yeah.
So when I shave, I look a little younger. So
Mhm.
some of my friends, oh
Same
yeah.
here. When I shave, I look young. No, I'm just kidding.
So when a couple of my friends told me, oh yeah, that's because you're not married, you don't have any kids. Well, I didn't want kids. I
Okay.
knew when I was, I think in my 20s, late 20s, early 30s, and I made my peace. So I don't no regrets. But and it's funny that you talk about like some of the dating stuff. Well, we'll get to that. But I remember I did a couple of podcasts, I think about a year ago, when I started the show, and then I took a hiatus for like 8, 9 months, and I brought it back just few months ago. And I did 2 episodes, I think back to back on for men, not to say on the first date. And then
Mhm.
when I heard these stories, I
Mhm.
said, "Shit." I was one of those guys. I put my
Mhm.
foot in my mouth. I opened up too quickly, and I'm like, so it's always a learning experience, and
Oh, yeah.
you always try to do, you always try to bring yourself to a better place the next time you date someone. So
Right.
can you talk about like some of your adventures? Like, I don't know, you could pick anyone you want, and then from there I'll chime in and ask a couple of questions
Oh,
because
sure. Well, so
I can see you smiling already.
That's funny you say that because we're literally the first chapter in the book is about a guy that I went out with. I mean, it's called The Last Date I Went On.
Okay.
And literally the guy, some men are very, and women too, they're nervous, right? So you just have
Yeah.
to give them a little grace. I mean, that's my whole thing after this. We have to give each other grace. We have to give
Mhm.
each other, we don't know what the hell we're doing, basically. So the guy shows up. I talked to him a little bit online and he shows up and he sits down. We're having coffee. He's very nervous. So he's just talking and talking and talking. And he basically admits to me that he is divorced. However, the last 6 years of his marriage, he pretended to be in the marriage because he didn't wanna lose the visitation rights with his daughters, so he
Mhm.
pretended to be in the marriage, happy, etcetera, and then he said when his youngest daughter turned and he was bragging, it was almost like he was proud of this fact, and I'm sitting there thinking, "Oh my god." He said when his youngest daughter turned 18, he went to the court the next day, filed the divorce, and he said, "Oh yeah, and we, had this regular Thursday Costco run we do, and we'd meet in the parking lot after work, and then we do our Costco run and go home." And he says, I got the documents and I handed it to her in the Costco parking lot, and she was shocked. But you know what? I was like, what in what way would that be a story that you think I would think is awesome? Because I thought you are an asshole. That's the first thing the bubble over my head was like, okay, so that is a horrible story. And, I never saw him again, but that
Yeah.
kind of thing, where I think the concept of what you can and can't talk about or what you
Yeah.
should and shouldn't talk about
Yeah.
is very interesting. I had
Do
another
you
guy.
think do you
Yeah.
think though, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
No,
Kathy.
no, no.
Do you think though, as men, and you've been on the dates and online and all that good stuff, do you think that we tend to maybe be too transparent at the beginning to let you know who we are, instead of maybe having a mystery about us? What's your take on that?
Well, it's interesting because I've had a lot of conversations about this exact thing
Yeah,
with because we're from a different generation, right? You
yeah,
and I come from a generation where maybe our moms were they didn't work. My mom worked eventually when we were in high school in the late 70s because
yeah,
of the recession and everything, and she had to
yeah.
go to work, and there were four of us, and but I think a good friend of mine, I say it in the book, he says, you know what? Men don't know how to be men anymore. If we open a door, we get yelled at. If we don't open a door, we get yelled at.
Yeah.
So I feel for men in my age range because granted, yes, probably their wives worked, probably, who knows,
Hmm.
but it's just a different mentality and to have
Yeah.
to navigated that especially as a woman. I've always been the breadwinner. I have three
Mhm.
friends who pay alimony to their ex-husbands. It's a bizarre, you know what I'm saying? It's a
Wow.
bizarre, different world.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it's the transparency part of it. I think nerves always, are sometimes an issue, but
Mhm.
also I just don't, I really do, I empathize with men because I don't know how you all navigate the world in the dating world now because it's so it depends on where you came from, what kind of role models you had as a kid and everything, but I think it's very confusing. So, I don't really know the answer to that question. I just think you just have to be a little bit, I think on the first date or at least a little bit more reserved, just
Yeah,
to
I
kind of
agree.
see if you have a vibe and a chemistry. But
Yeah.
and again, not all my dates were horrible. I'm not saying every single date I went on was horrible. It was just nothing ever really turned into a long-term situation, a real long-term. I had some long-term ish kind of situations, but yeah, I think it's hard to navigate the world anymore for any of us, especially when I mean, God, look at I was telling somebody the other day, one of my best friends met her husband through a personal ad. I mean, can you imagine? She was reading a
Personal
newspaper,
ads.
she cut it
Wow.
out, she wrote a letter to the PO box, put a stamp on an envelope, put it in the mail, mailed it, waited for him to reply. Nowadays you just go like this, and
Yeah.
there's no anticipation or any, you know what I'm saying? There's no waiting, and it's just such a different world. So,
Yeah, no, and I'm hearing some, I might watch other podcasts or, interviews on YouTube, and it's like so different now. I mean, compared to when I was in my 20s to now, it's such a different world now. Now you got women being on Instagram and shaking their ass and
mhm.
having bikini shots. And I'm like, geez. And then and I did a show on for the guys to watch out for these signs in terms of being catfish. They always send their pictures are always sexy poses. They're always in bikinis. They're
Mhm.
always in lingerie.
Mhm.
And then if you see a video, they're on all fours. I'm like, I couldn't go out with a woman like that. I'm like,
I know.
and it's like it's so different from when we were younger. You court a woman, you took her out and everything. You try to be a gentleman. Now I think it's just and I'm hearing stories that for that generation, or for this generation, I should say, guys got to be have a backbone, and if you open the door, that's fine, but if you don't open, let her open. It's like
Mhm.
effing weird now. And
I
I'm like,
know.
I'm glad I'm not young anymore, because I don't
I
know if I
know.
can navigate that shit. So I know you were talking about the story about the guy and the parking lot at Costco. What else do you have for us? Because that
Oh
I
my
agree
gosh.
that that was an a-hole move. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
an
and
a-hole
the
move.
thing I have guys, I mean, gosh, I mean, one of the other funny ones was, I went out with a man who is a college professor, and we kind
Mhm,
of went out a couple of times, and there was no chemistry, and he had kids that were a little younger than I wanted to deal with. I tend to
mhm.
date a little bit younger, like 10 years younger or so.
Sure.
And but it just didn't click. So,
Mhm,
months passed by, and all of a sudden he pops back up on my profile or, my matches. And I was like, huh, what's he doing? So I, clicked it. We, got together again for dinner.
mhm,
And I'm telling you, he told me one of the funniest ones too, because, you're trying and you're thinking, okay, I have to, I can't always have 100% of what I'm looking for. You have to, I mean, we obviously got along. We had good conversations. He's a smart guy, whatever.
mhm.
And by the way, one of the most interesting things he told me is Alzheimer's research professor is that we never use our musical memory. So when you see videos of people online and they're
Okay.
remembering songs when they're 90, we never lose that. And I thought, oh, I'm going to keep that with me when my parents get older. And I did.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway, so we went out to dinner and he was telling me that in the between the time I saw him last and this current date, which was probably 6 months period of time, he had started seeing a woman who was a pharmacist, who's just a professional woman, made a lot of money, but had been married 3 times.
Mm,
And I was like, oh, and he said she had 3 kids by 3 different guys. And
wow.
I said, triple red flag, I'm like, okay, where's this going? And he said, yeah. So one day, and they were together 5 months, I think, and he thought they were monogamous, having this
Hmm.
adult relationship, right?
Right.
And he said one day she was off work and he thought, oh, I'm going to go surprise her at her house, right? So he went to the store and he bought her flowers. He gets to her house, knocks on the door, and the car's in the driveway. So he knows she's home.
Yeah.
And it took forever for her to come to the door. Well, she opens the door and she's in a cheerleading outfit. And he's like, what the hell's going on? And it wasn't Halloween or anything. And she admitted at that point she was in there having a threesome with 2 of her ex-husbands. And I said, I mean, I'm at dinner with this guy. I said, what? And he said, yeah, you cannot make this stuff up. I said, well, she was in a cheerleading outfit. He says, well, part of one, and I was like, oh my God. And then I said, well, did she invite you in? He's like, no, she didn't. And I thought, so, it's stuff like that. You can't make it up. You just can't
Yeah.
make it up. So I just
That's a
said,
good story, though. That's a good one.
it's like, and that's in my book,
Yeah.
So I think people are just nutty, and I don't even know if there's any way to tell that stuff from a
Yeah.
profile, from going out with him a couple times. I mean, he's been dating her for almost 6 months. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying? So it's like, what?
Yeah.
This is why we all have trust issues, first of all. No, but and again, it's funny, but it's also mortifying,
Yeah.
because
I mean, imagine.
how do you navigate that?
Yeah, exactly. She opens the door. She's in half a cheerleader's
Yeah,
house. First of all, why she opened the door anyway? And then she admits, yeah, I'm doing the threesome with my
I
two
know.
ex-husbands. I'm like, holy cow,
Oh
that's a
yeah,
good story. I mean,
yeah,
I don't have anything like that, not that I
yeah.
know of, but
Well, and the more I talk to people, I did a podcast the other day with some people and they were telling me their stories. I'm like, oh my God, I could write like 10 sequels to this book because no one would believe this stuff.
yeah,
So yeah, it's crazy. I think that's the part is you just sometimes you just can't believe it. And that's why I say you have to have a sense of humor. People,
yeah,
well, what's your advice about dating? I'm like, A, give people grace because we're all a little nutty. B, just have a little bit of sense of humor because you have to,
yeah,
and so yeah, and so not like I went out looking for, low life men either. I mean, I was in
yeah,
DC. I had this really high level job with some very prominent people. So the
yeah.
events I attended were very high level. I used to wear ball gowns. People laugh because I said, yeah, now I ride a horse and I wear jeans and a t-shirt every day in Colorado. But back then I did. I would go to events in a ball gown. So
Do you
um
miss those days?
um it was a different time, and I was working for a family, and it was 24/7 job. I was a single
Okay,
mom, and it worked out well because it was flexible to that situation.
right,
My
right.
son, these people had a suite at the Pepsi Center in DC, and I think between the ages of 11 and 18, my sons probably saw 70 concerts for free. You know what I'm saying?
Wow,
So
yeah,
just the events and performing arts things and, meeting presidents and things like that. Yeah. So it was definitely an amazing experience. But now I have a lot more peace and quiet. I mean, it was very stressful. And,
yeah.
Colorado's different. It took me, I think, about 4 years of living here for people to stop telling me that I was overdressing, to anywhere.
Really?
Yeah, because it's very casual in Colorado.
Okay.
So
Gotcha. So you were like for a woman, GQ, nice dress, whatever, and then people saying, "Wait a minute, here we dress with jeans, t-shirts,
flip
or
flops.
flip
Yeah, I
flops
went
or
on a date.
sweatpants."
I went on a date when I first came here, and this man picked me up, and it was summer, so
Yeah.
but he picked me up in a nice polo shirt and shorts, but he had flip flops on. I was like, I said, we got to the dinner and I went into the restroom and I texted my friend in DC. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's wearing flip-flops to dinner, God forbid. But here it's just normal, people
Yeah.
wear flip-flops in the middle of winter, So yeah, it just, I had to adjust. Let's just say that. So
Yeah, no, I can't say that I ever went on a date with flip-flops. Maybe loafers, that's probably the casualest I got.
yeah.
Um, and we're talking with Catherine Berra, author, equestrian mother, world traveler, optimist, which I still love that word, optimist. So, how is the dating scene now? Fast forward, from 48, now you're 59. How has it changed much since 10
You
years
know,
ago?
to be honest with you, I haven't been on a date in, well, I saw my friend's brother a little bit last year.
Yeah,
We went out because we knew each other. It was fun.
yeah.
I really haven't done any online dating in, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, years. And I just don't know. I mean, I hear stories about like Tinder and Bumble and Hinge and all these other kind of sites. And, I just think I'm kind of done with that because, honestly, another chapter of my book is my cousin convinced me, oh, the more money you spend, the more quality of the guys, and the worst date I ever went on was the one that I paid the most money for, and I can't talk about that one because it's really raunchy.
Okay.
But it was mortifyingly raunchy, but that's in my book. But
Okay.
and the book is called "These Stories Are True, I Shit You Not," and that it's basically
Great title.
where we
Great
are.
title.
Like
Yeah.
these are true, I shit you not, and because you can't believe it. But I really don't know about the online dating now. I do know a lot of friends who try it still, and
Mhm.
unfortunately, you go from one site to the other, and
Yeah.
it tends to be the same people. But I do want to pivot if you can right now to this scamming, what you were
Yeah,
talking
sure, sure,
about,
sure.
catfishing.
Of
Okay,
course.
so what happened with me too? So my friend convinced me to write the book.
Yeah.
Well, then 2 weeks after I published it in February, she says, "Have you ever heard of Book Talk?" Which is part of TikTok, the online app
Oh,
everyone was
okay.
using during COVID, and the people were doing funny dances, and it's this big, huge, app for entertainment. People do little funny videos and stuff. And she said, it's part of TikTok, and it's basically for authors and writers and
Mm.
reviewers and people, readers who want to review books. And I said, oh, huh, I'll go and check that out. So
Right.
I used to work in TV. I'm not afraid. I used to do, voice on commercials. I used to do editing. So I wasn't afraid of trying it. And
Yeah.
I got on there and I picked it up pretty darn quickly. So I created my, my own site, which is
Mhm.
Catherine R. Author on TikTok. And I do like little book, it's like passively promoting your book. Okay.
Right.
However, and I sell a lot of books that way, and it's fun, and I've met a lot of people. However, one of the videos I did was a 7-second video, and it's basically about one of the chapters in my book where a guy tried to scam me. And it was a
Wow.
military guy, who I found out eventually he had stolen pictures from a military obituary site and created a profile, okay, which
Uh,
incensed me to no end. However, I posted a video on TikTok, and it was a funny little 7-second video of my
yeah.
face and my eyes going back and forth
Yeah.
and a little ominous music in the background. And the text on the front said, when a guy claims he is on an online dating app, claims he's in the US military, just finished training in Afghanistan, and he's going to take a hot bath. Like, he's in Afghanistan and he's going to take a hot bath. It's like, that never happens, right?
No.
First of all, so that video right now has almost 1 million views. I
Wow.
have like 30,000 likes and 5,000 comments. And that might be a sequel that I'm going to do, all the
Okay.
comments,
Yeah.
because just like what you were saying, they use the same damn script. And I'm telling you, it's funny, but it's sad. Like, one of the women said, yeah, he told me he was on a boat. He's in the military. He's on a boat in the middle of the ocean. Pirates just hijacked the boat.
Oh,
But in
geez.
order to keep talking to him, he needs more iTunes cards. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what?
I
And then they
oh,
use the script of, I'm in the military. I'm, out in the field. My daughter is living with my parents because my wife was killed in a tragic car accident. And I can't tell you how many women, same
I got
story.
the same thing today with
I
that
know.
one from Syria. Her
Yes.
parents died in a car accident at 8. It's tough being here. You know, it's
Yep.
just blah 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 blah
Yep.
blah blah. You know,
And
the
it's the
same
same
story.
script, and one of the women, this is why I screenshotted all those comments. I think I might try to do another book, but
Yeah.
she said to me, the last guy that said that to her, she wrote a note and said, "You know, you guys should really start a support group for one another because you've all lost wives in tragic accidents." I mean,
Uh,
but then someone else told me there's literally a university, I wanna say it's in India,
yeah.
or Nigeria. I had
Okay.
mine was from Nigeria that teaches people, it's like a school you go to learn how to scam people, and I'm like, "What?" So, it's a billion-dollar industry for these people, and I can't tell you again how many women on this comment section on my
Yeah.
TikTok have admitted they were scammed. One lady for $37,000.
Oh
And
my
it's, you know what I'm
God.
saying? So it's that has been a real interesting conversation that it has started through this whole TikTok thing,
Yeah.
and it's sad, but it's a reality. So,
No, no. I listen. Like I said, a couple of days. I think it was a day or two ago. I've been texting with this, and I put it in quotes. A woman, and and the thing is, and I tell guys this: if somebody's on TikTok or Instagram or Twitter, and they won't get on the phone with you, or they
yep,
won't do a video call, hello,
yep.
that's telling you something. These people are fake.
Yes, and
They're
that's so
asking.
important that you do those podcasts because people need to be informed. And I think it's
Yeah,
sad because A, they're probably, if they're older, like in our age range or a little older, they're probably married or widowed,
yeah.
or divorced or widowed. They have money. It's like they have money, and these people prey on them, and it's just sad. And a friend of mine just told me her father-in-law, they were going through all his documentation to do, the will and the trust and
Yeah.
everything. They're going through the estate, bank account, and they're like, "What the hell? Where's all this money going?" And he's sending it to some Russian woman who needs help,
Oh boy.
And so, yeah, it's a billion-dollar industry,
I had
and
no
I just
idea.
I just don't know how to stop. I don't think there's a way to stop it. I mean, I just don't.
I mean, you could block the person and report them, but is Instagram or Twitter going to do anything about it?
Right.
Probably not. And that's why, to me, I always say meet, go to networking events because you see the real person there. I
Yep.
mean, my God, I go to business networking event. I go to singles events. Here in New York City, we have an area that we roller skate in.
Yeah. Oh,
And
fun.
yeah, and I met some women there, whether they stay friends or it was a one-time acquaintance. I never saw them again, whatever. But you know, I can't do the online thing. And I go and I play along with it. I'm gonna be
Right.
honest with you. I play along with it. I make up this thing. I take 10 years off my age. I say that I got two businesses, I got this and that. And then I'm telling you, within a day or two, they ask you for money. Oh,
Yep.
I was in my period, and the medicine I have ran out. I need your help.
Yep.
Whatever you can send me. And then what I say, and excuse my language, Catherine, I say I need some ass. I need some ass before I give you money.
Right.
Give me some ass, and
Right.
then I'll send you anything. I'll give you anything you want. So it's
Right.
and like I tell the guys again, they don't want to get on a phone call. They don't want to do videos.
Yep.
Then hello,
Good for you to do that, though. You gotta
yeah,
keep that doing that because, here's another weird thing that happened to me. I was at the bank doing a transaction, talking to my banker about something. We were just sitting there, and I was telling her about my book, and she said, interesting enough, we had a woman come in here a couple months ago who, had fallen for that scam, and she
uh,
said the fascinating thing about it, it's a multi-level scam. Like, these
wow,
people will use you to send money to someone else, to send money, to send money. It's layers and layers and layers.
yeah,
So she was part of the layer and got in trouble because he put money in her account. Well, then the bank figured out what was going on
hmm,
and pulled the money, and she was, I don't know what you call it, but she was removed as a customer at that bank.
oh
They said,
wow,
"We cannot take the chance that you are not really part of this whole scam." And so she had to go find another bank. It's like they know these scams are multi-layered, and they
yeah,
use
yeah,
people to, it's like laundering,
you're
basically,
right,
is what it is. And so, yeah, so I think if there's anything you can do is just keep that up, keep telling the men about that because,
wow.
they think it's real and it's not. And why would you not think it's real? Because this is a post I did the other day on TikTok. It's like, people ask me questions and make comments, and you can respond to the comment, and it's
Right.
above your head, and you respond to it. And I say, there are so many generous, kind, loving people out there that are just trying to connect
Yeah.
with good people, and then these people prey on them, and it's really sad. And so again, we just have to watch out for each other. And I think that's
Yeah.
great that you're doing that, because it's so important that people get it. They really get that unless you meet them in person. Yeah, I wouldn't. And that's the thing too. I think that's why online dating is, unless you're going to meet them the next day or something, some of these
Yeah.
things you can do that. But yeah, I wouldn't trust any of some of the major ones I used to use. So.
Right. Yeah, no, like I said, I try to warn the guys, I'm gonna probably do another show down the road of it. But anyway, first of all, Captain, I want to thank you so much for being on People on
You're
Dating. I got a
welcome.
couple of those stories were definitely kick ass. I love that. So talk more about your book. Like, how did you put it together? You said that it was just stories that you went. Did you hear other stories from other people as well? Or
Well,
um
so yeah, so I started just writing down the dates I remembered that were so crazy.
mhm,
And some of them didn't make it in the book. Some of them, I decided not to put in there. But yeah, so my friend just started helping me, because I did have a recollection of a lot of them,
mhm.
but then she would remind me, because I didn't want to remember. But I just started putting them together, and I started writing it, putting it into chapter format. I did an introduction and a kind of a ending of the book. But I worked with an online publishing consultant.
Right.
The company's called My Word Publishing. It's here in
Okay.
Colorado. There are a lot of them you can find. It's just
Okay.
basically because if you try to go through the regular literary agency, it's just you have to get rejected and put the letters out. And like, what, if you have the means to do it, it wasn't free, but I paid the money to have it edited, and I
Yeah.
still find little, like, there's a word in there that it's misspelled, but you can always change it, because I uploaded it to Amazon. So
Oh, okay.
eventually I'll do that. But
Yeah.
it is on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited. But so I just started putting it together.
Yeah.
I hired an editor. I hired the online publishing woman, and she helped me get it up onto Amazon. And I also have a poetry book that I published in 2020.
Okay.
That was the same thing. I just always wanted to. Here, I'll show you.
Sure.
This is my poetry book. So this cover is
See,
a
I like that cover. That's a cool
watercolor.
cover. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a watercolor my son did when he was 3 years old. And I just
Wow.
put it on the kind. Now he's 29. That's called Lucid Life. And then this is my these stories are true, I shit you not. So this is me, and what I did was I just sat at my counter. You have
That's
to
a great
save
that's a
money.
great that's a great cover. I like it.
Um, but I sat at my counter and I pointed up, and then I cartooned myself on an app on my phone, and I sent it to the cover design lady, and I said, "Could you just use this?" And she said, "Yeah." So you have to be creative, and you have to be a little
Yeah.
bit, have a little bit of fun with it. But yeah, so I just put it together, and I just decided, you know what? People need a good giggle during COVID,
Yeah.
and to know that they're not alone in the nuttiness, right? So,
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I'll definitely put that on the show notes. And if somebody wanted to get in contact with you, what's the best way?
well, my website is catherineberra.com.
Okay.
And then I am on TikTok on Catherine R. Author. And my email is sassypantspress@comcast.net.
I
And
like
that
that.
is my horse's nickname is Sassy Pants. Her name is Dancer, but I thought, oh, what the heck? So I had to create a publishing company to publish my book. So, but yeah, it's sassypantspress@comcast.net. So anywhere they want, they can get a hold of me.
All
So
right, sounds good. Well, anyway, again, Captain, thank you so much for being on People on Dating.
thanks
I
for
really,
having me.
really appreciate it.
Sure.
All
Have a
right.
great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Well, everyone, that was Catherine Berra, and you can find her at catherineberra.com. Catherine, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. Much appreciated. You can find me at peopleondating.com. That's peopleondating.com. Check out our past shows and check out our blog. Also, when you get a chance, please go to Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe, leave a review, tell us how we can make this show better. And you can also find me on Google Podcasts and Spotify. On behalf of People on Dating, I'm Will Morales. Until next time, thanks, everybody. Have a great day, and please stay safe. Bye.